Welcome, everybody. Glad to have all you back. Sorry for the big delay last week as we took a little vacation time over the holiday. Hope everybody enjoyed their Thanksgiving with their friends and family. This week we have one of my good friends and special guests on here, Jamond. Welcome to the show, my man.
I appreciate you having me, Garrett. Thank you.
Yeah, man. I've been looking forward to this one.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, Jamond owns DC Cigars,
Yes.
Definition Cigars. And for those of you that have seen his other podcast, we are not going to play the drinking game. Like, we're not going to play that.
No.
I didn't know if you wanted to. I mean, I was going to throw that out there and be a little surprised because it's like one of the only few things I found trying to do my show research was the podcast where you guys played the drinking game.
I mean, we can do it.
I don't know that I'm ready for that, man. It was kind of a long holiday weekend, man. I mean, we got the bourbon to do it, but man, what'd you guys do? It was every time somebody said cigar?
Every time somebody said the word cigar.
Yeah. Oh, man, that would be so brutal.
Cigar.
Yeah.
And cigar.
We'd be hammered in the first hour.
Oh, my God. That's what happened.
Yeah, that's wild. So, Jamond brought us some good sticks here. We'll start off. I just want to get you guys a little basic knowledge of what he has, what he does. We'll kind of start off there. So, as you guys can see, he brought us some very nice cigars here. Normally, my two favorites, I'll go ahead and put that out there, is I really love the Chairman.
Yeah.
And then Kermit is, I mean, like, between those two, like, it's so hard for me to say which one I like more or less. Those are my two go-to. And in all fairness, short of it being something that was given out at an ICC event or just something I just, for whatever reason, gravitated to, that it was in a mystery pack or whatever, right. You have so many different cigars. I have not experienced most of your line, like straightforward. I've got stuck on a couple and I just stay in my lane.
And that's the whole point, though, to be honest with you, Garrett. It really is. It's we want the consumer to find their lane, but we also want to find that consumer and identify their lane as well, so that they can stick hopefully to DC.
Put out so many stuff.
Yeah. So the goal, it was kind of real simple. I can't ask you what's your definition if I'm only offering you 2 or 3 Vitolas. Right. And that's one of the popular tags is wanting the consumer to define who they are as a cigar smoker. So offering different flavors, different shapes, creative shapes, box press Salomons, box press Perfectos, Figurado Sumatras, just having fun with it and giving people the opportunity to define.
Right on, man. That's awesome. So when did Definition Cigars start?
Officially launched 2019, January 2019. So get ready to come up on a 4 year.
January what?
January 12th.
Just curious. My birthday's in January, so
What day?
Curious. 30th.
Oh, okay. Okay, yes.
So I was just curious what day.
Yeah. So coming up on 4 years, Garrett, but officially started the company in terms of creating a cigar and that sort of thing late spring of 2018.
Okay. So you're, I think, Dallas born and raised?
No. I'm from the DMV, Northern Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. So, yeah, born and raised there.
Okay. How long you been in Dallas?
It'll be 12 years in January.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right on.
So, been here a little bit.
So, all right. So, what's your background? What got you into cigars? Like, where did you go from as a person just learning and enjoying cigars to deciding I'm going to jump off in DC and start my own thing?
Yeah, so it all started with my grandfather. Was a cigar smoker, pipe tobacco guy ever since I can remember him being around me. So it was always around me, and my grandfather loved cigars. And just, it's funny the stuff that you pick up.
Yeah.
Just being around someone that is a father figure to you. So fast forward through my own life, I get to about late 20s and started smoking. Started getting into cigars and enjoy them. And fast forward to 2018, we go to an event, Garrett, me and some of my friends, and at the event, we wasn't treated very well by the rep for this major brand, and then it became barbershop talk. The next day, people are in their feelings like, you want to know what? Let's make our own cigar. And you're like, okay. So we started out with a supplier who, and maybe we'll get into this in the conversation, but started out with a supplier that didn't see the vision that I had, and really didn't meet the expectation. And I was fortunate enough to have some relationships that I had built while smoking cigars, and one thing led to another. Had the opportunity to switch suppliers, and the great cigars that we've been able to make with that factory is what you see today.
Okay, what did you do before cigars?
Transportation and logistics.
Okay.
Yeah, I am.
So this was a complete 180. Like you just
most
lanes.
certainly. I still do that.
Okay.
I still wear that hat as well during the day. But director of operations for logistics and supply chain company.
Okay, right on. So let's dive into this. So the cigars you have, like, and you're gonna have to bear with me. Like, I love cigars, but talking cigars, like, heavily is like me still trying to talk in a foreign language.
And that's cool.
No, and that's one of the things I really like about your cigars, and one of the things that, like, early on that I liked was almost all of your cigars are the same size.
Right.
Same gauge, same size. Mm-hmm. Like, they don't vary in that way. Mm-hmm. Now, you vary in a lot of other ways where you have flavored cigars and you have all these different things that make them unique in of each own cigar.
Sure.
But it stays in that one comfortable size for me, especially.
Right.
I mean, you have a few of the little shorter Toros, are those?
Yeah, so that's a standard Toro.
Or not Toro.
There's some, most of them are that 6 inches, so a standard Toro, and then
like a 48 ring gauge or so, 40 something.
So the sweet spot for me is between 52 and 54.
Okay, 52.
So yeah. So
that's close.
Yeah. So some of the other Vitolas are 6.5 by 54, but that is my favorite size cigars. That 6.5 by 54. That's where I
agree. That is a sweet spot for me as well. And I don't care how they shape it within that, because it still seems to work and burn in roughly that same amount of time of, like, even if I can only have one, I have that hour to hour and a half, no matter if I'm smoking fast or slow. Yep. I know that's what I'm going to get out of that.
Man, you speaking my language.
And that's, that's one of the things I think is so beautiful about cigars is for the price point of, let's just say $8 to $12.
Yep.
On average, what else can you do for an hour and a half? And, like, really, Nothing. It's like meditative. Like, you can sit and, like, you're committing to sitting down and being with yourself or friends and enjoying that cigar for an hour and a half.
Right.
There ain't a whole lot of shit you can do in the world today for $12.
Not at all.
For an hour and a half.
Yeah. What's the price of a movie ticket? You go to an hour and a half movie.
Yeah.
What you got?
$30.
Easy. By the time you get something to drink and some popcorn.
Oh, I thought we were just talking about the ticket. I mean, we had popcorn and soda and candy. I mean,
right.
Let alone if you take your wife or your girlfriend, like, you're just bumping
you got a 100
it up,
spot.
Or you got kids.
Yeah, you got a 100 spot. Gone.
Whew. I mean, that's rough. So explain the bands. And I know this is probably, from what I've heard, I may be wrong, bands are going away.
This will be the first official I guess announcement. I guess we could say that.
Oh, so I'm jumping the gun here?
No.
Okay.
It's fine. It's cool.
All right.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, you heard it here first, guys.
Gentlemen.
I have groundbreaking news for the first time on the podcast.
The exclusive.
Yes. So in back channels, some of my retail partners they know, but for the masses, the bands are going away.
Okay, so for those of you that don't know, as you can see, every one of Jamond's cigars has a colored band on it. And it's honestly, I like it. I can see why you would not do it because it has to be expensive to have these like crocheted bands put on your cigars.
Sure.
But nobody else has that.
Right.
And they really stand out. Like, and as far as if you can't remember the name of the cigar you like, or
remember that
what
color.
you remember the color and what that band is. You know, same thing with the Kermit. I have no idea what that's really actually called. I've just always called it the Kermit.
Right.
You know, I heard one person say try the Kermit, and I was like, yeah, the light green one. Like, sweet, I'm in. Like, that's cool. So. What made you? Was there inspiration behind this? Like how did I mean? You talked about
Definitely.
your grandfather, grandfather. Like
Yeah. So the band wanted to stand out. Garrett, that is the true premise around it, and how to stand out in such a competitive market.
yeah, because when you walk into any humidor, no matter where it is, it's boxes and cigars, and then the band on them. So I mean, they don't leave the boxes closed when you walk in a humidor.
Right.
So you got open things. So if the top of your box is really sexy, which a lot of these guys do, they make these elaborate, amazing boxes, which is cool. And I was really into that when I got early into cigars.
Okay.
But then what do you do with all these boxes when they start piling up? It's like, there's the evidence to the wife of how many cigars you've bought recently. I mean, and, you know, short of a few that I have that people signed and stuff like that.
Sure.
I keep a few of them,
Right.
but I mean, at a certain point, it's like, you just got to start getting rid of these. Like, you can't just have boxes and boxes of cigars sitting around.
Yeah.
I mean, like, most people don't have that kind of storage space.
Right. I think from my perspective, it comes down to business as well. I mean, who wants to? I mean, so yeah, you caught me with the eye test and this pretty and this grand box,
Yeah.
and then I smoked a cigar, and you're like,
Yay, nay, maybe, in between.
maybe.
But did the box improve your cigar experience? No, I mean,
No.
it's kind of just like you and I kind of briefly talked about this earlier. So today, Jamond really likes rye whiskeys.
Yeah.
Him and I bonded and talked about this Buzzard's Roost that I brought up here for him tonight. Because that's just an odd rye that I really
Yes.
like that's hard to find. You can't find it in Texas. You got to find it other places. But, you know, this is one of the things with like the bourbon groups and stuff. Everybody gets caught on these tater stickers. So like, here's one. This is a great bottle. DFW Whiskey Club, one of the clubs I'm in. They did this Hey You Rise Goonies tribute bottle with this Woodford Reserved rye. People get caught up on these stickers, man. I mean, like, I've done it. Every bourbon drinker that collects or whatever gets caught up in the tater world for some period of time, and it's kind of part of the evolution. And you kind of either just kind of come to terms with it, like that's just a thing. You're into it. I mean, I've bought bottles, like I have a Zelda bottle. I can't even tell you what bourbon is in this little 375 milliliter bottle, but it has a holographic Zelda logo on it. It has a wax job on it, and then it's got a like sword in the stone on the top of it. That you can pull
the Nintendo Zelda.
The Nintendo Zelda. So it's nostalgic for me as a kid. That was like one of my favorite games.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean,
yeah.
I paid a ridiculous amount of money for this stupid bottle, but it sits on my bar shelf, and I don't know if I'll ever even drink it.
Right.
But it looks cool.
It does.
I like it.
Right.
You know, like
it works.
But with cigars, like it's kind of the same thing. Like, do you want that box to just sit on your shelf and look cool, and you have some kind of humidified display case that you're going to leave that out there? I mean, like, especially for like, that's the thing I think is so different with cigars is if you collect cigars, like you can have a humidor in your house, but like reality is most people aren't going to have some kind of display case like a shop would. So like the value in tatering a box or having some crazy box to me is kind of lost. Like I think it's a much better business move to like,
Yeah,
to
get something
focus on the
functional.
cigar,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Something functional to sit on the shelf
Yeah.
and then say, okay, the presentation is cool, but
yeah.
the energy should go to the cigar. I've never, and not to offend anyone, but in terms of just collecting cigars, they're made to be smoked. That's like and some people that's what they do. I mean, not knocking it, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting some cigars and sitting on them, because some folks like to let them season a little bit, and there comes to a point where you let them season and they'll natural things happen with them, right? But like sitting on a box for like 12 or 13 years to say I got these, or like,
yeah, I couldn't do that with cigars. Like cigars to me, like, now don't get me wrong. I mean, I have boxes of cigars that are sitting in my locker, or that I have in my acrylics at home or in my locker. Now, when I latch on to certain ones, and maybe it is an older cigar that I was fortunate to get to buy a box of or something like that somebody hooked me up with, I'm not going to not smoke it. It might be saved for a special occasion. Like
there you go.
I have a bottle at my house that's a tribute bottle that was done for vets that
right.
I don't just drink with anybody. If you were police, firefighter, served in the military, then you're at my house, you want to have a drink of that? Cool, we'll have a drink of it. I have very few bottles that have stipulations like that, but I do have a few.
But just buying something to say, I'm just going to buy this. I'm going to buy a box of cigars just to
say
I got them.
Yep. It kind of defeats the purpose, because that's how this podcast and other things started. Was it's the sitting down, sharing a cigar, and having conversation. Like that's what this stuff was meant for. Whether it be the spirits or the cigars,
right.
Like that's bonding, that's community, that's communal time.
Sure.
To me, anyways. And that's the way I've always looked at it, and that's what I appreciate and enjoy about it.
So, my man Blake, Blake is tuning in, checking us out.
What up, Blake?
He agrees with you guys 1,000%. He's just like, yo, why you holding on to it?
Yeah.
If you got it, smoke it.
Smoke it.
Yeah,
smoke
for
it.
sure. I mean, like, that's one of those things that, like, I mean, what better way to show your appreciation for somebody, or to have further conversation or start new conversation, to be like, hey, Jamond, man, like, I know you've never had Buzzard's Roost.
Right.
Like, this is something I really like. I know you like Rise. Like, let's try this. Like, and then we sit down and start talking about it, and then that just leads to other conversations. Cigars are the same way. Like, they're all so different, and like I feel kind of the same way about cigars that people are doing all this barrel aging stuff. Like, It's cool. Some of them, when they first come out, to me, I don't want all that other crap on my cigar. Like, it's almost like buying a flavored cigar. If I wanted a flavored cigar, you can buy a flavored cigar. Now, some of them, it's cool, just like coffee or something else, like putting it in the barrel. I'm not saying it doesn't do anything. It does. Sometimes it's too much for me.
Sure.
Sometimes I'll take those cigars, and then I do age a lot of those barrel cigars that these clubs and people do, because once it ages a little while, it takes that bite off of it a little bit. And then you get to taste a little bit of what was added if you're familiar with that cigar. But to me, a lot of these people haven't even smoked the cigar before it was put into some special barrel.
There it is.
So if you don't know, what are you paying the extra money for, or what is the purpose of doing it? Just to say you did. I mean, I get it. Like, the barrel still needs to have a purpose,
right? After
it's gone through its bourbon life, let's say. But and that's a cool way to do it. But to me, I think people get a little too carried away with that stuff.
No, I agree, and I think it's kind of like the stick and the carrot. Some people's perspective, Garrett, to I'm gonna get you on this cigar, right?
Yeah.
And you're tasting hella alcohol, so you're really not able to enjoy the cigar. So, okay, was this a shit cigar to begin with? You're not able to determine that, right? Because now they doused it in whatever. But the whole stick and the carrot is to say, man, you want to know what? That was really good. Let me get a bottle of this.
Yeah.
And the cigar is completely forgotten about. It's almost in some instances disrespectful.
Yeah.
In some ways.
I could totally see that. I mean, the passion and the amount of time it has to come in for each one of these that you do.
Goodness.
I can only imagine. Just like, I joked with the Frakes about wanting to do the Vegas thing when they had the big cigar thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, let's see how legit you are. So then they had me be on the panel, and we smoked like 50 cigars in like 3 hours. And I was like, holy shit. Like, all right, I can smoke.
It's overload.
I can smoke, but, and I'm not saying we're sitting here smoking a whole cigar, but you're taking 3-4 good draws to like
You're tasting,
see what you really think about it. And then you're cleaning your palate and you're like passing it on and going down. But that's a lot, man. So like, and I'm sure from what I know and what I've heard, that's kind of the process for every cigar you do.
Yeah, I mean, so
because you're playing with wrappers, binders,
1,000%. And so, I was gonna make 2 points. I'll start off with the first one. So, Garrett, anytime I'm looking to release a cigar, or I feel that this is one that's worthy of sharing with the rest of the earth. So while it tastes good, I go through stages. Wake up in the morning with it, eat something with it. My evening smoke, maybe the middle of the day smoke. To ensure that there is that versatility, because I don't want a customer to pick up a Definition cigar Maduro and just say, hey, this is for dinner. And that's relative to the person, but for making cigars for everyone, I want cigars that will match the experience of the person, match what they have going on in their day. And if they come into the lounge and look at the lineup of Definition cigars, they can choose to pick up one depending on where they are in their day. That is so very important to me. I mean, I'm always a cigar smoker first. So, in terms of creating cigars for folks, I put myself in the chair of the cigar smoker before anything else. Yeah, business is cool, but man, I want a person to enjoy the opportunity that's there. As you said, somebody is choosing to take an hour and a half out of their day to sit down with a cigar, and
absolutely.
In doing so, I want to make sure that I'm able to at least meet the expectation for where they are.
Whatever their cup of tea is. I mean, like, there are cigars on the weekend that I specifically smoke because I'm going out in the morning, sitting on my patio with a cup of coffee. What I choose to smoke with my cup of coffee is not the same thing I typically choose to drink with my bourbon. It can be, but it may not be.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to go through cigars and do the same thing as well. Like, am I drinking straight bourbon? Is it a rye night?
Yep.
Is it a Garrett's having a tequila night?
Yep.
Or an Armagnac night? Or
yeah.
a cognac night?
Yeah.
Like, all those, and what am I eating that day? I mean, just what you eat. It's the same thing as spirits. It's like your palate will change and evolve. And like, there's cigars that I used to really like to smoke that now that I've been smoking for a couple years seriously on cigars,
it's not my bag anymore.
It's not my bag anymore. My palate's evolved. That doesn't hit me right. And sometimes I go through periods. Biz and I were just talking about this not too long ago.
Shout out to Biz.
That like smoking a stronger cigar, and it's like I almost burnt myself out for a while because everything I was smoking had a little bit of spice to it. And then I was like, all of a sudden I was like, wow, I don't want pepper. Like, I don't want pepper for a little while. Like, and I had to switch up, and I had to ask questions like, okay, this is what I'm getting now. I'm kind of over that. And, that's one of the great things about ICC. Like,
the
these
education.
guys have a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, the education.
And you talk to them about it, and they're like, oh, well, try this. Like, go down this avenue. And that's one thing I can say. A lot of brands find their lane and just stay in that lane. Like, they may have 3 or 4 different offerings, the really good ones, and they fall within a certain lane, in my opinion.
Sure.
And I'm kind of a novice at this, so bear with me if
people
disagree.
It's facts, though.
But then there's a brand like you've created where you've created a vast line so that, there is something for everybody. And maybe you started out loving the Kermit, and now all of a sudden your taste buds have changed, and maybe you've kind of like, maybe you're on a eating Jamaican food kick or, Mexican food kick, and that ain't sitting well when you come home and you light up that cigar. So now you're like, oh man, I got to try, XYZ.
Man,
and
Garrett, you're
go down
speaking my
there.
language. And I talk about this all the time to folks. And especially with men. A lot of times, you ask somebody, what type of cigar are you like? Man, I'm a full body guy. Okay, that's fine. That isn't necessarily good for your cigar journey because the nerve endings on your palate, if you burn those bad boys out, it's not a regenerative thing. It's once they're gone, they're gone.
Yeah.
So it is important to mix up what you're smoking. Man, smoking Maduros from morning to night all the time is not cool. You need to mix in some Habanos. Maybe find a Connecticut that's right for you, but that's healthy for your palate.
Yeah.
And it's the right thing to do so that you can truly enjoy all the cigars, the great cigars that are made.
Unfortunately, I say that and agree with you 1,000%. And a lot of people think that the darker the cigar or the stronger the blend, the more masculine you are.
Right.
And it's a regional thing. I did some work in Miami. Down in Miami, those dudes believe in kick your palate in the ass, very large ring cigars because it's based on status. Mm-hmm. And look, it's
same thing with like the super long ones. Like,
yes,
I don't understand that
smoking
either.
mini baseball bats and thinking that because if I have the cigar, that means I have a boat and a Rolls Royce outside. Even though he's driving a Honda Civic.
Boss status.
But nobody
Ross.
never gets the chance to see or experience Habano, Sumatra, all these different things that create so many different flavors that pair with other things. They're miseducated and they let society determine their cigar journey.
Right. And Biz, that goes back to what I talk about with Definition Cigars. The name is intentional. The person defines their experience. Do not let the tags of society define your cigar journey. Garrett, there's so much out there. Hey, you can't have an IPA with this, or tequila or vodka or what have you. No, kick that door down. This is not the back rooms where you gotta have your smoking jacket on and you gotta smoke a certain cigar. Man, be comfortable and try things. I had a guy that smoked nothing but Maduros, Garrett, and Maduros and Scotch, Mac 12 guy.
Okay.
And I told him, Castron, I said, just trust me. So I gave him an IPA, 9.8% in strength on the IPA, and I gave him an Habano to pair with that. And it knocked his socks off because now that the IPA and the hops that was in that composition and that makeup of that beer brought out so many notes in this Habano, the citrus components that this particular cigar had. I mean, paired with that IPA, I mean, it was like a
whole new experience for him.
Yeah.
So what do you do in your position? What do you do to continually be on the forefront of that and to be giving yourself even yourself now as experienced as you are? What are some of the things you do to push those limits and to open up new doors or new things to give you that experience to where you would be able to share that experience?
I come and talk to guys like you.
And just open-mindedness.
I come to the lounge.
Yeah.
I come to the lounge and talk to the people who are smoking my cigars, other cigars. I hear from the people. And in doing so, Biz and I, man, Biz is my family. We have a lot of conversations.
He's all right.
He's all right.
I kind of like him.
We'll keep him around. But we have these conversations about, man, sometimes just coming to the lounge, whether it's from a business perspective. So sometimes I do come with an intention. I'll have a bag of cigars. Biz knows this. I've done this to him before, of something I'm working on and working through. And I say, hey, Biz, smoke this.
Did I not just say don't smoke nothing? Because it's like Christmas when he comes around.
Yeah, you did say
I'd be
that.
like a little crackhead.
Because I was out there like, what do I get for Jamond? Like, what am I going to go? So, I mean, I always pull out cigars for the guests. Like, and I'm out there going like, all right, well, I've only smoked these 2. There's no Kermits. He knows I like Kermits. I was like, what am I going to do? And Biz was like, dude, stop. Just
Don't
go
worry.
sit down, smoke whatever you're going to smoke while you're doing your show prep and stuff. And
yeah.
chill.
I got something. But it's to directly answer your question, Garrett. I come and talk to the people who are smoking.
But are you that's awesome. And I mean, I think that's a great strategy for that. But like, maybe I didn't ask this exactly how I was trying to. Obviously, you're probably, from what I've heard and what I do know about you, you're pretty open to trying things. Like, you're not one of those people that like, like, I don't eat this, I don't eat that. Like,
sure.
You're probably one of those people, like, probably much like myself, like, I'll try it once.
Yep.
Maybe not twice, but I'll at least try it once. Have an open mind and see what it's about. Like, do you try to put yourself in those situations, whether it's with food, drink, and other things, because of how much that affects cigars?
Yeah.
Is that what you like? Is that something you really push yourself to do?
100%.
Constantly?
Garrett, I tripped up, and this ain't a shameless plug. I promise you it's not. But
nobody sponsors us, so I mean, you can say literally whatever the hell you want.
Man, maybe we should talk.
Yeah.
I developed a coffee blend.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Colombian roast coffee that I did, and
I want to try this already.
for real?
Yeah, for real. I'm a big
my
coffee
goodness!
person.
Oh, okay. I got to get you some. So it all started. A guy that I went to high school with. We haven't talked in 20 years.
Okay.
And he runs up on a Definition Cigars, or somebody may have told him from where we're from, and he's like, man, I tried one of your cigars. Hey, I'm doing this. He spent 4 years in Colombia, learned to trade, worked the fields, did all that. Like, he went through it.
He immersed himself in it.
And, man, we went through like 8 months of trying coffee. And my point is, I'm not a coffee drinker. But in doing that, to kind of let you know about me, I'm like, hey, let's give it a whirl. So I opened myself up to drinking coffee, and more coffee than I really wanted to.
Yeah.
I mean, I drank coffee from Costa Rica, from Mexico, Guadalajara. I mean, he had all this stuff to say, hey, just try it, and we're gonna scale down, and we're gonna scale down, and we scaled down, and we scaled down, and we scaled down, Garrett, and we got to this Colombian bean that I fell in love with. And
all right, what did you fall in love with about it?
So I fell in love. So it had this overlay that was similar on my palate. That was similar to what Nicaraguan tobacco gives for me, and it was pleasant. And it was strong, but not too much. And I wasn't jittery either. Coffee, when I was cold or something like that, I would grab a cup, and then I got the jitters. But this, it was really cool. And then to put kind of a little exclamation point on it.
Yeah.
We roasted the bean.
Yeah.
And I paired it with the chairman because I was on chairman.
All right, I'm already in. You see, that's one of my top ones right there.
It worked out well. So
awesome,
I
man.
sell it in whole bean because once it gets to the customer, you grind it and
yeah. Plus, it's whole bean. You can throw it in your freezer. Bang. And it doesn't go away, and like you can do it. Like, I did something really stupid. I'll give these guys a plug. So one of the other groups I'm in, they did a barrel-aged coffee bean, right? And I didn't pay attention to the size of the bag. So, I was like, I got to get it while I can, like, give me 4 bags of this. Well, I didn't realize each one of these is like a 2-pound bag. Like, it's literally like a bag like
not
this.
like a 10-ounce bag. It's
the big, like, legit coffee bean bag.
8 pounds of
so I got 8 pounds of this one coffee, and I'm still just like trying to like tear through it because like for a long time with coffee, for me, it had to be cold outside. Like, I'm not a person that I don't dislike soup or chili.
Okay.
I love chili. I make some really great chili. But it has to be cold outside.
Right.
You don't eat chili or soup in the middle of summer when it's 100 degrees outside.
Just doesn't go.
It just doesn't work for me. Coffee's the same way. Like, as long as it's below 80 degrees, 85 maybe, depending on where I'm at, I'll have some coffee. But if it starts getting hot, man, like
below
I don't
80
wanna,
degrees is still warm.
I know, but like as far as drinking coffee,
Yeah.
because it heats you up.
For
like,
sure.
It gets you going.
That's
like,
its goal, I believe.
Man, I couldn't do it. But now I that's one of those things kind of evolving with me and stuff, especially with cigars, man. Like I've got like Ken Hamlin, his Arrival cigar.
Yeah, that's my guy.
Like Ken and I have become good friends, and I really like his cigar. But I don't like his cigar as much with bourbon and stuff. Mm-hmm. His cigar I really like with coffee. Like that is one of my morning cigars that when I'm going to have some coffee and I want to grab a good short little stick that I know here's an hour I can sit out here and enjoy my cup of coffee.
Right on.
That's one of my go-tos, you know, like that's.
I get it.
Yeah.
And ain't that the beautiful thing about cigars?
I think so.
Man, I'll tell you a quick story about Ken. Me and Ken worked an event in Birmingham, Alabama about a month or so ago. And the organizers of the event were like, okay, Jamond, we're gonna put you over here and we're gonna put Ken over here, you know, so that you guys aren't side by side. And, you know, me and him have a relationship as a result of being in the business together. And so we talk a little bit. And we were like, nah, put us together. We gonna kick it.
Yeah.
We're gonna hang out. Man, I mean, hey, Jamond has definition in what they do, and the Arrival, it is what it is.
Same thing.
Yeah, I mean, like, no, put us together. So that's the whole, for me, and for how I was raised and watching and being around my grandfather, cigars were always a thing that brought folks together.
It's community.
It is community.
It's
Man,
community.
People still now, my friends used to come by the house. I mean, the first thing they say is that, wow, we used to come in there and Mr. Hackley would be in there smoking those cigars, and who would ever thought that you would have got into cigars? Like and that's the neighborhood that we grew up. My grandfather was him, and it's relative to what we're talking about now and how cigars, and he's remembered for that, and the questions he was asked about cigars, because you know, you're talking about, Garrett, in the late 80s, mid 80s, late 80s. I mean, not a lot of black men are smoking cigars and you know, doing it as like we do it now. And from where I'm from, there just wasn't a ton. There just wasn't.
All right, so my cigar knowledge doesn't go that far back. I mean, I got into cigars kind of in my 20s, you know, traveling. Sure. You're on vacation, you're at a beach, and I'm going to go grab a Cohiba or Romeo and Juliet. Right. That's really my first introductions. But I didn't realize, like, so culturally in the black community, cigars were not like a big thing, and at least not in your areas where you grew up?
So yeah, it wasn't what it is now. So you had the splash of the 90s, right? But you're talking about born 79. You're talking about the mid 80s. There was no lounge for my grandfather to go to.
It was the older cats that got together and played at pool halls. If you had a card game, if you look back historically, Bill Cosby always had a cigar.
Yep.
George Burns. It was just the older guys that did it because, once again,
but that's what I would have seen.
Right. It was something they came up with when they used to hand roll cigarettes.
Yeah.
And cigars was kind of a graduation. You see more older cats also smoking pipes.
Yeah.
And those things. But now, let me ask you this, Jamond. Would you guys both say, and we've talked about this, Garrett, that there's now a renaissance with cigar culture opening up to the Gen Zs, all the people like that? You see a lot more women.
Sure.
And you see that 25 and up actually wanting to learn and respect cigars. Because when I first started, it was just something to do cool, and I would waste a cigar.
Sure.
But now, after being educated and a palate actually being developed, I truly sense a renaissance. No matter where I go in the world, there's always, because I look for a cigar lounge and you see such an array of people in there now, no matter where you go.
Yeah.
It's the new golf course.
Yeah, I agree. Gary,
go ahead.
You take it first.
Okay. I mean, just carrying on with what you said. I mean, I think it's a lot like the bourbon industry, or not bourbon, just I'll say spirits in general. Like you watch these evolutions of these things. Like so, cigars. You know, me growing up in suburban life, like. My dad was a banker early on when I was growing up. So when I would get drugged to my dad's poker parties or whatever because there wasn't a babysitter or whatever, or I'd go down to the basement and there was a poker party going on, stuff like that. There were never cigars smoked in the house, but like the guys would get up on their breaks and stuff like that, and you'd see some of these old banker dudes like smoking a cigar. That was like my first experience with it. Then it's more movies, television, that, you know, you see a James Bond or somebody like that light up a cigar. It showed class. It showed
it was always a Churchill.
It showed this other side of life, like high society almost, like that I'm gonna sit down with my Churchill, you know, cigar. I've got a Cuban, you know, like those things. And like I remember growing up early on, like, you know, it was like all you heard about when I was in my early 20s was Cubans. You know, everybody like, I mean, like I used to care about that like early on, but like, man, there are so many good cigars. Like, you don't need a Cuban. Like, I'm just going to say that first and foremost. Like, not saying Cubans are bad. Cubans are good. I think Cubans probably were way better from the little bit of research I've done back in the day, the 70s, the 80s, pre-JFK. Cubans were really good. You know, everybody was putting money into Cuba, getting the cigars. Their land was very fertile. They were putting the nutrients in the ground, and that was their cash crop. So, like, I think there was a time period where Cubans were better than what they are now. I'm not saying there aren't still good Cubans, but seeing that evolve, it's kind of like bourbon too. Like, and I'm seeing that in the Renaissance type question you asked, and like, where these younger generations are getting into it. I think they're seeing those things in movies and stuff like that, but it's kind of like spirits. So like bourbon in the 80s, which is like 80s bourbon, is one of those sweet spots that everybody tries to go buy dusty bottles of now. But it kind of was crap back then, and like nobody was buying bourbon. Everybody was buying vodka and other spirits, gin and stuff like that. Bourbon kind of fell off, and like it just like, I mean, like they set on them. Like now all those barrels are gone, and have been bottled and stuff like. And people are like trying to find out where they were exported to, and they're going and buying lots of them to get these old dusties and stuff back. Well, then bourbon kind of made a resurgence, as did other spirits. Tequila is kind of now, to me, where spirits are kind of going. Tequila is kind of hitting its high point. You see all these actors and famous people. They're putting their name behind tequilas and stuff like that. You're also seeing it with gin. People are really pushing the boundaries with spirits that have been around for a really long time. It's kind of a cyclical thing that comes and goes, but you saw this happen too. I think the most recent example of this was craft beer. Craft beer about a decade ago, microbreweries started popping up everywhere. Everybody was making their own craft beer. And everybody latched on these things. And for 10 years, I could buy whatever bourbon I wanted on the shelf. I mean, Blanton's was on the shelf. Eagle Rare was on the shelf. All these sought-after allocations were on the shelf at normal prices. And you didn't even have to sweat that. But as craft beer kept going, then the big money guys, the Budweisers, all these people, they started buying these craft beers and taking over these things where they started losing their nostalgia. It's kind of like clubs in Dallas. They got to change their name every 2 years because it's no longer the hottest place to be. So now it's no longer the hottest drink right now. So as craft beer started taking over, what I saw in the spirits industry was a bunch of people started pushing classic craft drinks. You saw this resurgence of old fashions, Manhattans, you know, all these airplanes and, you know, this and that, and all these classic cocktails. Now everybody wanted to know how to be a bar master and like go back to making mixologists. They're making all these craft drinks. Well, as that started happening, the beers started dying off because all the big names bought them, and now it wasn't cool anymore. You know, oh, Budweiser owns XYZ. It's not my local craft distiller anymore. Now they've gotten big time, and it loses a little bit. I mean, it does. When it starts being mass produced, it always loses a little bit, unless you're one of the few really greats.
Right.
So you saw that happen, and then COVID happened and all this bourbon clubs and the bourbon stuff. And one of the only things you could do was go out and still go to liquor stores.
That was
and
it.
Go for these hunts on finding this bourbon.
Yeah.
And everybody did it. I did it. Guilty as charged.
People building bourbon shelves in their houses and all
everything.
kinds of stuff.
I mean, I did it. Like, I'm a poster child for this, literally. And you go through that cycle, and then you kind of like, okay, well, now my palate's kind of changing again. And then you're like, oh, you're still playing with craft drinks, but then, oh, wait, now I'm kind of like, I'm digging like some cognacs and armagnacs, and like, now you're seeing those things kind of like pop back up and become bigger again. And then now you're seeing the other spirits start to creep back up, because there are a lot of distillers out there that distilling, whether you're distilling tequila or vodka or bourbon, all this stuff is not, I mean, it's made the same.
Right.
The mash bills and stuff and what they're made of and how they're distilled is what differentiates them a little bit. But really, it's a very similar process across the board, with very few exceptions. I mean, there is a craft to each one, but now you're seeing these distillers, they're bored with, and especially the craft distillers, which is what I chased when I got into it. I wanted the craft stuff that nobody else had. I didn't care about allocated whatever. Yeah, if I got it, great. If not, whatever. But you're seeing these craft distillers now, they're wanting to push their own limits and their own boundaries, kind of like you with your cigars.
Yeah.
They're wanting, all right, well, what if I made the most badass absinthe now and like got people back into making absinthe drinks? What if I made gin? What if I made gins that didn't have like a strong juniper note?
Right.
To where other people that are not as in tune with juniper would still enjoy gin and gin drinks just because they don't have a juniper note. I mean, you're seeing this stuff. Like, the only one I still make fun of is vodka, and I don't dislike vodka, but you know, vodka, you're just tapping out the still as hard as you can, and by definition, it's a clear, odorless, and tasteless spirit. So why is one bottle of vodka $300 because it's Russian vodka versus a Tito's bottle that's $34?
Right.
The reason is the water it's cut with. Now, is water from XYZ worth that much more to you or not? I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't taste different. It does taste different, but you know, you kind of got to weigh these things out. And I think people are getting more educated. So I think it's a cycle to come fully around on this. You're gonna see these things, and I think cigars, there is a lot you can do with cigars, and I'm not downplaying that by any means. And a lot of this is probably my knowledge still, because I'm early in my journey on this. But cigars, you can still have some for everybody, and cigars can be kind of allocated, and some can be hard to get, but you can go almost anywhere, even the shittiest lounge. I'm betting you can walk in, and if you talk to the right person and you knew enough to say what you like or don't like, even in the most basic terms that even somebody would make fun of you for in, let's say, the bourbon world, and you just said like, hey, I like something lighter. I eat these type of foods. I like to drink XYZ. Anybody with a little bit of cigar knowledge would be like, oh man, you should try this Connecticut, or like one of these Connecticut's, and like you might love it, you might just like it, but you're not going to probably hate it. You'll find some you do. I mean, I'm not saying there aren't shitty cigars out there, but you know, you can find something. And like, again, you're spending on average, I mean, unless you're really getting up there, I mean, you can go in and buy a cigar for $8-10.
Yep.
And you're not going to be bent that you smoked a stick for $8 and you didn't fall in love with it.
No.
I mean, you're not going to be bent. I mean, you might not go back to it, but you'll keep going down your journey, because it didn't completely suck. Right. I guarantee there was something still in that hour and a half that you smoked that cigar that you still enjoyed. Whether it was your peace of mind, your time, your solidarity, and like just your mind, whatever it was, or your conversation with whomever you had a conversation with, there's still something you pulled out of that and gained.
Yeah. No.
So I think it's kind of going full circle, and I think there is a renaissance with cigars. Like, I think people are seeing this and they're like, oh, this is how the boomers and stuff like that, this is how they unwound. This is what it is. It's not just about getting high or chasing this XYZ. Right. They're like, oh, I can sit down and enjoy a cigar. And socially, it's changing too. I mean, I still think it's kind of funny. I mean, I make fun of my wife. Like, she's a cigarette smoker, and, you know, you can go into some bars, you know, few bars you can't smoke cigarettes in, but you can't smoke a cigar in there. Yeah. But then you go to a cigar lounge, can't smoke a cigarette in there. Yeah. So, I mean, like, there's all these things in society that tell you what you can and can't do. But, like, reality is, like, you can go pick up a stick and you can find a way to enjoy it to some degree. Without being, like, hitting your pocketbook or anything else really hardcore.
What I think has happened, too, is education. People don't know how to taste a cigar. Yep. So you approach it like, my wife is like, that's gross. How do you even taste? Once you finally figure out that every cigar blend tastes different, gives you notes. Like, you never seen in the old school cigar advertisements talk about the notes. No. The blueberry. Like you explained earlier, how things come out. Citrus. Pops here at the lounge taught me one thing. If you really don't feel like drinking, drink a Dr. Pepper with any cigar, because the cherry notes in the Dr. Pepper draws out the flavor in the cigar. Yeah. Once I was taught how to properly retrohale, you can really taste what's in that cigar. Then that education now opens your mind. Right. Now you're tasting the reason why we chain smoke certain cigars. Right. Like literally in about 4 minutes, I'm going to ask you for another one of these, or I'm going to grab that white one on the table. Yeah. Because of the taste of it, its relaxation, all that. There's so many things that I think that, as you've done with your wider range of cigars, you hit palettes from here, from left to right, and in between. Yeah. But it's the education that is actually caused the renaissance, I think. Yeah.
And Biz, my response to your question is, I think in terms of the day in which my grandfather was smoking, he enjoyed it, loved it. There was not a lot of choices in terms of just going to a lounge like there is now. We have choices now. And in the mid 80s in my neighborhood where I'm from, there was no cigar lounges. My grandfather in some instances was a maven, but he was a truck driver. So he would meet other folks who enjoyed cigars while he was out on the road, and they would do that because, you know, smoking was considered back in the 80s not to be anything that was be considered a pollutant, right? Yeah. You can smoke on a damn airplane. Yeah. Right. So I think that was his journey, but it was from the love perspective of what that cigar or that pipe tobacco offered. It wasn't about anything else, is that I'm enjoying this. Fast forward, Biz, to your question, from there until now, where we see this renaissance, and it's kind of tricky for me. I'm cautious. I'm cautiously optimistic about it, because what cigars have now also become, it has become an accessory to the party. And because there's cigar lounges who now have created an experience and pulled people away from going to the club. Yeah. Now you do not have to necessarily go to a club as a cigar smoker to hear live music, to hear a hot DJ, shout out DJ Biz, to hear the tunes that you want to hear. You don't got to go out to a club and pay this absorbent of cover charge. You can come to a lounge and buy 2 cigars. You want to smoke anyway. Yeah. And I can hear my tunes, right? So.
And you can party and have a good time.
You can party, have a good time. In some cases, bring your own liquor. Yeah. Even. Yeah. So there's a savings there. But with that caveat there, you get some folks who now say party first, I'll come into the humidor and I'll buy 2 flavored cigars, or I'll buy a cigar, or what have you. And for me, why I'm cautiously optimistic is that I want to ensure that the experience that someone has when they happen to smoke a cigar, that it's the right one, that you're associating the party and, hey, where else do you go and find single men? You go to the cigar lounge and let's get a cigar and party and I'm just so yes, Biz, it's a renaissance. We're getting more younger folks into the culture and a lot of great stuff is coming out of it. But also I see this. There are some things that are kind of alarming. That you see.
I see it a little differently than that. In all honesty, I see it. I think it's a little opposite of what you said. To a certain degree, in that I think because there are lounges like ICC and other good lounges that are coming along, that are putting these things out there and creating an atmosphere, I think it's hitting our generation and that generation below us that's getting out of their early 20s, coming late 20s, early 30s, that are like, all right, we all went through this. All right, the club thing, the partying, the bar hopping, that's getting a little old.
Sure.
I still want to go out and have a good time with my friends,
right.
And I want to be able to drink. I want to be able to hear music, but I don't want to be at a club, and I don't necessarily want to be at a full-fledged bar.
Right.
Especially with, kids that just got their, license and can now drink, that just came of age. Now they want to go to find a place that's a little more laid back, a little more chill. Can I sit down and just enjoy my time with whomever I want to go out?
Sure.
Whether it's my friends, my wife, my girlfriend, whatever that person's scenario is.
Right.
I think it's more that they want to find a place like that. And I think that's pushing and booming some of this a little bit, in that people are wanting to do that. They want that other experience.
And a little bit. So it depends on where you are.
Mm-hmm.
This lounge still keeps it about the cigar. This lounge does.
Not all of them do.
But it's not it's the minority. And I travel the country, right?
Yeah.
And go to different places. And you will walk into some lounges, and during the time they may have a live band or what have you, and people are going in and they're buying a flavored cigar.
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and make that purchase. Right? So they do that. There isn't the education. The only things that is required in some locations is to make that purchase and then come in there. There is not that person that's going to walk you into the humidor and say, "Hey, what you feeling like?" or education.
Yeah.
And the second part, Garrett, is that now you have popular clubs. Biz knows this. You have popular clubs who have now
introduced cigars
into their club atmosphere.
But the problem with
this
that
whole club thing, so
the problem with that is what you just said. And I have a question from Donna Parker. We're going to ask you in a second, so I didn't forget you, Donna. But the problem is with that, what comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Yep.
So when you have something that is the cigar experience, but we give you a little bit of that festive atmosphere, you keep the cigar first.
You keep the cigar
and
first.
that's when you walk in. So you can't pass this point of entry without getting the experience and the education. And then I unleash you into a curated atmosphere where we're smoking. Even though we're partying and we're doing everything else, the cigar comes first. Where if it was a bar first, but now we got a little section with cigars in it, but the music
cigars.
is still blasting.
Yes.
It's over. It's them jumping on the train late.
Right.
Donna did say one thing. She said in her comment, so go to the lounge and just begin the experience. So basically, if you start your cigar journey in a true cigar lounge, then you'll kind of know what I call the posers of, they just let us smoke. Because half the time, 98% of the time, those places, the selection of cigars are garbage.
For sure.
I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places like that. Donna, I'll tell you this. Like, I've known you for a long time. I will personally, let's just say sometime in January, because that's one of the next events that I'll be available for. You come be my guest at ICC. I know you live a little ways out. You come up here. You can be my personal guest up here. We'll come when there's an event or whatever, and just come, enjoy it. We'll share some cigars, some drinks, and just hang out. Like, but yes, I think everybody should find that. Like, I mean, I got lucky finding this lounge as one of my early cigar lounges. You know, because I've been to some of the other ones here locally. I don't want to bash anybody or talk trash about anybody, but like, you know, there's a very popular one that serves alcohol where you have to buy alcohol. They have some food and stuff like that. But you go in there and it's like, man, like you're choking on everybody else's cigar. Like there's a lot of things that go into you enjoying that experience. Like, how is their filtration system? You know, are they coming around cleaning ashtrays and stuff like that?
That part.
Stuff that like ICC does religiously that like, now that I am more of a cigar smoker and when I am traveling, I look for these things and I try to find lounges to go to. Even if I have my own cigars in case their cigars suck, you know, you still run into finding stuff. Like even when I was in Ohio the time before last, the first lounge I went into up there, I mean, it might as well just been a bodega shop. I mean, like it was terrible. And you still couldn't even smoke in there. So it was like, what was the purpose of this? Like, yeah, I could buy one, but it's freezing cold here. I have nowhere to smoke. Then I go to Columbus, you know, just this last trip I was there, and I Googled some more, and I found one shop. I got lucky. The first one I went in, it was a really nice shop. Now, like, if I had been an inexperienced cigar smoker, they had no name brands hardly except Olive, and then everything else was very boutique-y. I mean, I'd seen some of those cigars, but I didn't know anything about any of these other cigars. I still bought an Olive just to, like, you know, I had an hour and a half to kill while I was waiting on my wife to come in at the airport. And you know what? It was a great experience. It was a cool lounge. Cool. You know, one of the other members up here, when I posted my picture about it, sent me a message and was like, hey, check out this other lounge if you get time. I'll definitely have to do that next time. But I mean, I've also traveled with work and gone into some lounges, and it's like what you guys are talking about and stuff, like, they're not all the same. Like, I mean, I haven't experienced like a club type setting lounge thing. Like, that definitely would not be my cup of tea. Like, I want nothing to do with that. But
the perfect example of, I don't get it. Now, if you go to Vegas, we've all been to the 8. That's cool. That's what it's up for. But if you notice now, all the casinos are making their little bar in the middle of the casino. Now they're serving cigars, and the service is horrible. The waitresses have no clue how to cut. I got cussed out by a waitress because I emptied our ashtray because it was stacked with ashes. I'm like, she said, what are you doing back here? I said, well, we can't put any more ash in this because it's full. And she looked at me like I was crazy. I mean, they just, and the cigars, of course we brought our own. Cigars are overpriced, not humidified, but they just know people like it because it's a thing.
It's a thing. It gets in there, and then that's why I'm cautiously optimistic about It's on us, Garrett. It's on us, Biz. It's on us to protect this. I agree. It's on us to protect this. So, calling out those things when it doesn't necessarily align with what the culture of cigar smoking is important, and not being okay with that.
There almost needs to be like an advocacy group for like proper cigar etiquette and lounges.
That's a part of the Renaissance, though, right? Because it's a thing where people are now dancing into it. It gets people into your venue, your spot, because it's so many of us who are now educated on what cigars do for us, what the type of person you may meet who smokes a cigar. So all those things are all positives. But, you know, we just have to protect the integrity of what it means to smoke a cigar. And you know, when someone says, you know, this bad cigar, X cigar, Y cigar, I was talking to a member here of this lounge, and it gave him perspective that there is so much that goes into, even if somebody misses, and it's straight shit. But there is so much that went into that cigar getting rolled and put into some form of a vitola. So relative to saying good cigar, bad cigar, it's not like a...
Talk about that a little bit. Let's tell the people, because some of these people, like there are some of our listeners that are very cigar knowledgeable, and then there's others that aren't. So let's talk about that a little bit. Like, maybe explain a little bit what goes into you making this cigar, like from start to finish, like
right.
To break it down, like, you know, cigar 101 of like how a cigar is made and like what it is you do and look for when you're making one of your blends.
Sure.
And the one caveat I want to add is I would really like to hear you explain and talk about it a little bit, because we've talked about it several times now, and it was one of the questions I did have for you. How do you make a flavored cigar? Like, Are you literally putting like some kind of extract in here when you say this is a grape flavored cigar?
Sure.
Or are there blends of certain tobaccos that, with the way they, the natural process they go through, tended at a certain point, or you pull it at a certain point, that now it's going to have cherry notes or grape notes or whatever? So
starting off with traditional cigars, it starts, so for me, it starts off with the leaf. What are we going to combine? A wrapper, a binder, and a filler.
Yep.
Or are we going to do multiple fillers with a particular binder or with a particular wrapper? So that's the guessing game. That's where the magic happens. So in terms of the factory that I work with, when we start blending a cigar, I will, and not trying to get too nerdy, I will smoke a vitola that has this wrapper binder filler, smoke another one that have this wrapper binder and filler, smoke this that has this wrapper binder and filler, and I make notes. So out of those 3 cigars, and this is an expedited explanation. So
Cliff Note version.
I may like this wrapper, I may like this binder, and I may like this filler.
How do you differentiate when you're smoking? And this is from my knowledge more so, and maybe everybody else's, but how do you tell what is the wrapper, binder, or filler when you're smoking it? How do you tell what's affecting what? Is that just experience from smoking so many cigars, like, and trying the different wrappers, that you could be like, oh, it was the wrapper, or oh, it was the binder, or oh, it was the filler?
So in some cases it's taste. In some cases you'll see burn. So Viso in a cigar is the heavy burning agent there. So you'll focus in on that in some cases to say, to ask, about doing something different in terms of the percentages of fillers, especially if you're doing a dual country cigar. You'll kind of dive into that a little bit, Garrett.
Okay.
And then you'll back away from that. And it's having those conversations and trying new things, because a lot of times, what I felt that I thought that I tasted, when I now pair this binder and this wrapper together, no, it wasn't that. So now we go back to the drawing board and say let's do the filler.
The filler was the difference.
So
it's a process of elimination.
When you're from my experience, yes. And then you and not trying to get too far down the rabbit hole. So then you're talking about age of the leaf, because that matters, and comparing it or marrying it with this age wrapper. The Connecticut that I made, it's 2 years ago now, Garrett, but the wrapper is an Ecuadorian wrapper. It only was 3 years age, and in my experience since making cigars, I've always stayed away from those because it's a performance thing. But in terms of the factory, they graded it as an A wrapper, even being that age. So the Noir, the Cameroon, was already in production and it was being sold. So, in looking at trying different things, I wrapped that younger wrapper that graded out really well at the factory, and we wrapped that in the same binder and filler as the Noir, and it came out to be pretty good.
Yeah.
And we rolled out with it. Henceforth, the Noir Connecticut was birthed, but expedited way. But yeah.
So do you think as you grow the company and as you're going through the experience, I mean, you said 2018 roughly, so you're 4 years old now. Do you see yourself continuing to carry as wide a range of a line, or do you see yourself narrowing it down a little bit more and like having less options, or maybe like you have these 6 options in your Vitola and then you have these 6 options that are flavored? Do you see yourself narrowing it down? Because just my personal experience of walking into the humidors where I've seen your cigars, not just at ICC, but I've seen your cigar in my limited time of going from where there was like 6 to 8 colored bands to like there's 20 colored bands, and they come and go and they change. Like, is that more you going through the growing process? Do you see yourself like narrowing that down, and is that what you're doing in that part of the process? Or do you see yourself always as having this many choices for everybody?
No. And great question, because it's actually the direction that I'm going. So the first couple years, I was in the lab working with my partners in the factory and creating these cigars. The factory had some templates. I can't take all the credit for them, and there was subtle changes that was made, but there was a lot of work that went into the core of Definition Cigars. As I move forward, Garrett, what I'm now doing is working on different sizes with the existing blends that's out there. So to answer your question, will you see a new cigar? Maybe. It would be an LE, though. The focus and where I'm going
is fine-tuning what's really
fine-tuning, creating different sizes for the customer experience. So you
know
like
what they kind of like now.
Oh,
like you're putting out, you're seeing what's really moving.
Yeah. I mean, and there's certain corners of the cigar community where, so you may see 10 different blends there, but one moves well here, one moves well here, one moves well here, one moves well here. So now my task is that I know that I have something that people kind of like depending on where they are. Now, if I offer a different size, does that now have a customer saying, "Hey, this hits different here"? So that's where I'm at.
Because cigars, depending on the size and the shape, I mean, cigars can change a little bit from the beginning to the middle to the end.
For sure.
And like that's one of my favorite things about Atabays and the Byrons and Germans. Some of the things I really like about them is most of the time on your standard day, I'm a 2 cigar guy. On my normal average day, I'm a 2 cigar. Like if I'm at the lounge, I'm going to sit here and smoke 2 cigars. There are times where I go for a 3rd cigar, or I get home and I'm going to have a nightcap, and maybe I'm going to pour a cognac or something. I'm going to have another one. So I get one of the smaller size cigars. Now, the bigger things that then I start contemplating, and what affects my decision is if you start off with a smaller cigar, like let's just say that it's about that much longer than this one is right now. Well, it's great, or some of them are really great early on, but by the time you get to about, let's just say where the top of your band is, it gets hot as hell. And that's in the construction of the cigars is what I'm learning. So
for sure.
I think that's a really important thing, that if you're going to do that and you're going to move that down the line, that would be great. I mean, I'd be all about a fan, because I will say that that's the only complaint I could say about a DC cigar is the shorter one with the orange band.
The pig,
I guess.
Yeah.
Is by the time it gets to the halfway point, it starts getting really hot.
Okay.
Like hot holding it, hot smoking it. And that's just something I steer away from.
Sure.
But out of all of them, that's the only thing I could say about your cigars that I've smoked as advice or critique. But I think that's important because there are, even within the brands, that's usually the time I jump brands and stuff a lot of times is because I'm looking for a 30, 45 minute smoke. Because I've already smoked 2. Maybe I was at a golf event all day long and I smoked 2 cigars.
Right.
But I got home and it's like, well, the day's over, but now the night's just starting. And I don't know that I necessarily want to jump into a 6-8 inch cigar.
Right.
Now I want like a little 4-inch cigar and I'm going to end my night. And I've smoked 3 cigars. But, you know, I think it gets a lot harder to make a good cigar when you start talking about reducing size. I mean, at least so far in my experience, like there's a lot of people that can make a good cigar that is 6 inches long. There's not a lot of people that can make a 4-inch cigar that is good. Like that's so far in my experience, that just seems like a fact to me that like a lot of people struggle with that. And, you know, a lot of times I would feel like doing too many things would be not advantageous, but I think a lot of people should look at what you've done and be really impressed and admire what you've done, and that you've been able to put out a lot of things and none of them have really sucked. And then you're able to like fine tune that. And now you're able to go in where you stuck consistently with a size and gauge of a cigar.
Sure.
And now you're fine tuning that. I mean, I think that's amazing. Like that's very impressive. I don't know if that was advice you were given or if that's just something you decided to do, but that to me is like very impressive. Like looking at it from a purely business standpoint, like kudos to you, man. Like that.
Yeah, it's just vision, Garrett. It's just because you also have to be respectful of the people that's deciding to smoke your cigars, right?
Yeah.
If their favorite is the Prolific, for instance, the yellow band.
I haven't smoked that one yet.
What different experience can I offer you in that cigar? Like, so you've liked it for a reason. You go to the shop and you decide to buy a box. Cool.
Yeah.
Every time, can you smoke that sublime size? Maybe not, but if I was to offer you a 5.5 by 54 box press in that same size,
yeah,
maybe you buy 2 boxes. You keep the 6.5 by 54 for when you want to smoke, but you buy that second box for when you just want to quit. Exactly. So that's just a thought.
No, that's excellent, man. Like I've been thoroughly impressed just from like with a little bit of, I mean, not to, you know, just toot your horn or whatever, but you know, like I've been impressed like watching what you've done. Cause I always interested in like how people jump off into something new like that. Like, you know, you have your day job and then you've created this on the side with your partners. And like, I mean, to do that and to the success you've had with it, like, I mean, I just think it's very impressive. Like, I mean, a lot of people would, you know, hopefully I've asked a lot of those questions tonight, but I mean, I think that's really impressive to see how you've done that and, you know, the things you've done to do that. Like you didn't necessarily take a completely traditional approach. Like a lot of people just, you know, it's almost like celebrity whiskeys, you know, like, or spirits, you know, I don't mean to just label it as whiskey, but like celebrity stuff, you know, like they just want to put their name on it and like the name's gonna sell or like brand it, badge it, like
go buy it.
Yeah, like go buy it. Like it's like, you know, I made fun of the Sweeten's Cove, like that's Peyton Manning and, you know, some guys that did that level, but they bought Dickel juice and in their first bottle they put out was like a 15-year Dickel. Right. Well, I can go to Total Wine and buy a 15-year Dickel for like $100.
And what's their price?
Bottle was $250. It's the same thing. Only difference is the glass, the shape, and the label on it. Like they were sourcing just like you source your cigars,
Yep,
like
yep.
you don't own your farm
Right,
and all
right,
that
right,
stuff
yep.
and your rollers and stuff like that. You're sourcing it. So, you know, to me, that's impressive, and like how people look at that and do that, and to still be able to offer value. And, you know, still put something good out. Like, I mean, there's so many people that they jump on that because of a label or somebody's name on it. Like, the only person I think in the bourbon game that has put their name on it and done something impressive that was like, and kept it at a price point that was respectable is Terry Bradshaw. And I can't stand Terry Bradshaw. I mean, like, he just kind of like rubs me the wrong way. I don't know if that's the cowboy fan in me or what.
That's
I'm just
exactly what
saying,
it is.
like, but he put out a bourbon that, you know, it's like $49. And you know
And
what?
it's good?
It's good shit. And like, it's legit good. Like, and I give him all the props in the world for it. Like, he didn't just put his name on it. He knew he was getting in a game he didn't know a lot about. He put himself around good people, and he created something and sourced something and like
What's it
made
called?
something good. It's Bradshaw. It's like Bradshaw's bourbon. Like,
Okay.
and it's legit good. Like, but then, you know, you look at someone like Peyton Manning. Like, Peyton Manning has the money to do whatever he wanted. If he wanted to build the whole damn place, if he wanted to buy Bardstown, he could have bought Bardstown and made his own mash bill and everything. Like, he could have done that, but it's almost like you insult your customers by putting a label and a bottle on it, and then they know that you're sourcing the juice. And yet, if you really thought about it and you just didn't want Peyton Manning's bourbon, you could go buy Dickel 15-year and save $150.
Right.
I mean, there's a certain business aspect to that to me that like just blows my mind.
I agree.
But the consumers still buy it. I mean, like, it ain't like he's going out of business. You know what I mean? He's still selling those bottles. I mean, your really high-end connoisseurs are not going to buy that Sweetens Cove bottle, but I mean, it is what it is at a certain point with that stuff.
I liked what Kevin Hart did with his tequila. I haven't educated myself enough to see how involved he was in the process of it coming about, but I really enjoy it.
I don't know that I've had his. I've had the Rocks. The
Biz,
Rocks.
have you had it?
Tremana is really good.
Which one, Kevin Hart or
Kevin-
The Rock?
Kevin Hart.
I haven't
Kevin-
had his yet. The Rocks
Yeah.
is all right. I ain't
The
gonna
Rocks
lie.
is pretty good. I mean, like,
But I didn't even know Kevin Hart had alcohol.
Yeah, I can't call
it's
the
recent,
name of
last year he put it out.
it. Yeah, but it is
Yeah, I mean, like, and you know what? Like, there's certain people, like, I feel like Kevin Hart and The Rock, like, they're not going to be misled. Like, I'm a little surprised that Peyton Manning's team of people that helped him do that, like, would put something out there like that.
Is
but
he
I mean,
a bourbon
like,
drinker? Do you know that? I mean,
yeah, I mean, he says he's a bourbon drinker. I mean, his family, and like, I mean, that's kind of what they put out there. And I mean, I think everybody saw that with, God, what is the name? The one that sold for like several billions of dollars. George Clooney.
oh, Casamigos.
Casamigos.
Yeah,
Everybody
exactly.
saw them do that, and I mean,
Yep.
they put out a good product.
Yep.
And they, I mean,
Cashed out.
A lot of people didn't know that, like, George Clooney, Brad Pitt, like, those type of guys were behind that.
Yeah.
I mean, but then there was a certain point where that kind of like started getting leaked out as strategic advertising and stuff like that, and it came out and like
that was a high-end tequila at one point before
Ryan
they sold
Reynolds with his gin. I mean, like, I'm not a gin drinker. I mean, there's very few gins I actually like, but he's doing the same thing with gin right now. I think it's Aviation or something like that. So I mean, there are guys that do this and approach it in different ways. I find it very interesting to see whether you're talking about what we just did, like celebrities putting their name behind it, and then someone like you, Jamond, that like had a passion from your grandfather, got into cigars, and then you went about creating your brand and putting something out there. And the trial and error process of you doing that over 4 years and where you've tuned that to, like, I mean, it's very impressive. Like, I mean, I hope everybody else is intrigued by this as I am. Like, I think it's super intriguing and learning a lot about these things because there's so much education in that process and having that. And like, in all honesty, like we talked about that tonight with the cigar lounges and stuff like that. This is episode 11. Out of the 11 episodes we've had so far, at least 9 of these people I met or furthered a relationship with here at ICC.
Yeah, lounge.
And it's lounge. And if this is the type of community and the conversations you want to have and stuff, that's why I encourage people to do that. Like, no matter what your day job is and like whatnot, it's a sense of community in the lounge. And there are certain lounges like ICC that create these kind of atmospheres. Yep. And I think it's great for people. And I think these are the type of experiences and places that are going to further promote these type of things. And which is why I started the podcast, because I felt like I was having a lot of really genuine, great conversations over a cigar and a drink with people such as yourself. Yeah. And I mean, I met you about 2 years ago. Yep. And you know what? I mean, we've become friends over that time period. And you know, like it just it just evolves. And like you get to have, I mean, I've learned so much tonight in the hour and a half so far that we've been talking. And like, I just feel like that's valuable.
The lounge is important. I was at an event. A customer came in, learned about the event on social media, came in, bought cigars, and was on their way out the door. Garrett, true story. I stopped and said, "Hey, you're not going to smoke here?" And the gentleman looked at me and said, "Man, I'm not as educated as everybody else in the lounge. So, man, typically I take my cigars home and I just smoke on my patio, smoke in my garage, and sit there and smoke because I don't know as much as everybody else." And I said, that is the exact reason why you should stay.
Yeah, exactly.
That is the exact reason why you should stay. Stay here and be comfortable. Man, get to know these folks. I mean, they're going to...
You're sharing a common interest.
Exactly. And they will give you an experience. You may hear something that may help your journey as a cigar smoker. So as a result of me asking him to stay, he ended up staying. Found out that the table he sat at, there was a guy that lived 2 streets over in his neighborhood. Never met the guy before, ever. Never met the guy before, ever. Friends. Never met. So they sat there and smoked. He had a conversation for the entire event, and now he's indoctrinated into what this community, what this brings.
It's the same thing. You and I had a conversation over text message or Facebook or something, because one of my high school buddies that I brought up that like enjoys cigars, and I had introduced him stuff, and he like texted me, he's like, "Hey, I'm at this event. I met a dude that exactly and I'm like, go up and talk to him. Tell him what you did at ICC. Right. Tell him what you like. Jamond will educate you. He'll like share stuff with you. Like, go have a conversation with him." He's like, "For real?" And I'm like, "Yeah, go. Jamond's cool, man. Yeah. That's why he's there, man. Yeah. Like, go have that conversation."
Yeah, and you want to know what? That next weekend, he had something to do with his wife, but he stopped by there at that venue and said, "Hey, man, I can't hang out tonight and go to my wife, but I wanted to come and get a couple sticks because after I'm done with her, I plan on sitting on my patio."
Yeah,
and it goes back to the point, man. Like, based on his conversation with you, he became comfortable in his inexperience. Damn. Sorry.
You're good.
He became comfortable in his...
Cigar. Sorry.
He became comfortable in his inexperience in coming back and talking cigars and buying something and to smoke at his house. And that wouldn't have happened without you telling
that conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, that's super cool.
The good shit.
You're good, man. We're all good. There's plenty on the table. We're not going to go through this tonight, so we're all good. But
yes.
So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the way this all started for me too. I mean, I couldn't be happier with the experience of like that. I chose to walk through the door here at ICC, and get some cigars. And you know what? Like early on, like did I feel a little out of place? Like initially, like walking in the door and stuff, like knowing nothing. But like the minute you walk through the door, like, man, the family atmosphere and everything that they create here is so prevailing that like you can't not be drawn into it.
And it's genuine.
Yeah, it's genuine. And you know what I did? Like I made the decision, like I found out they had bourbon nights and stuff like that. So you know what? I had more knowledge on bourbon than most of these guys. So you know what I did is I injected myself and I started sharing bourbon knowledge in exchange for cigar knowledge.
There you go.
And like people would be like, I'd bring a bourbon and be like, hey, you guys really like this, you should try this.
Sure.
And everybody would start trying, and they're like, hey man, like, did you like that cigar you smelled? I'm like, like that's kind of there. Well, hey, try this. And like dudes are going in their locker and just grabbing a stick
That's
and
the
like
cigar community.
handing it to me and being like, hey, smoke this. Like, just, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, whatever. And it's like, man, I mean, I didn't know at the time, but like, there were people literally handing me $30, $40 sticks to smoke.
That's the
like,
cigar. That's
and
the
that's
community.
just the cigar community.
It is,
and like,
it
it's
is.
cool. And you can like learn a lot of stuff, and like the connections you make and the people you meet. Like, it's just overall like a really good experience.
Yeah.
So.
We're coming to a lounge. I tell anybody, I use this all the time, and maybe someone has heard me say this. When you come to a lounge, get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's just
get comfortable with being there. Come in with an open mind. Who you may run into, who you may get to know. Just be present. Be present in that moment, because
there's genuine people.
It's really cool, man. A guy I was on another show a few weeks ago, Garrett, and a guy, man, he said something really cool. He said, man, as much as I love cigars, Jamond, I love cigar people better.
Yeah. I can agree with that.
I was like, wow. Man, slow that down, like for a second. As cool as it is to smoke a cigar and relax and chill, have your favorite spirit. But absorb being able
the community is better.
Who you gonna meet?
Yeah.
That's doing this. Man, so like I was
it could be
wow.
life changing. I mean, like literally, like
1,000%.
You never know, like who you're.
I would have never known, Biz.
This is facts.
Yeah, I mean, I would have known half of the people that I know. Like, I've made so many more good and close friends, and I don't use the word friend lightly. Like, there's a lot of people that use friend or my best friend really loosely, and that's always kind of bothered me. Like, I mean, I moved every 3 years growing up, and like, move away from somewhere and see who keeps in touch with you.
Right.
See who keeps in touch with you.
I've done that in my adult life.
Yeah, that tells you a lot. Like, people you thought that you grew up with and that were like really close, like critical growing points in your life. They aren't as good of friends as you want. Really, I got one. Yeah, you start learning that you have way more acquaintances than friends.
Right on.
But I can honestly say a good environment like a cigar lounge or something where there is community, and I keep using that word, but it is so vital and important. Yeah. That, like, your community and the people you keep, like, really like says a lot about yourself, and like putting yourself in a situation where you can grow and engage in that and have meaningful, good conversation stuff is hard to find in this world, and there's a lot of people looking for that.
Yeah,
Cigar Lounge is a great place for that. Like, you just have to be open and like willing to like go down that road,
right?
And come in with an open mind, like you said, because you're going to meet people.
Yeah, definitely.
People are just gonna like overhear you having a conversation with someone else and like start talking to you, and then like, oh shit, I just like, holy shit, that's Jonathan Scott. I just thought there was this big ass dude in the back here that I was talking to all the time. Oh well, he played for the Pittsburgh Steelers and all this other stuff, and like, he's a really cool dude. Like, doesn't give you athlete vibe at all, and like, it's just a genuine good person. Like,
I was in a lounge, Garrett, and I love music. I play the drums, and I was in a lounge, and
we're gonna have to touch on this again next time.
Somebody who I respected as a producer was sitting in the lounge, and New Definition Cigars, and
bam,
wham.
You're like, what? He was like, man, I want to shake your hand. I'm like, man, what are we doing right now?
Yeah.
But my point, not high capping or high siding, is that that's what the cigar lounge presents.
Yeah,
But when you
it's an
met him,
opportunity.
he's a regular person like everybody
Yeah,
else.
sure.
and,
He's a
but
cigar
treat everybody
smoker.
like they're
That's
regular
it.
people
Yeah.
too. Like
That don't
there's
even
a-
come up. Y'all
It
talk
don't
about everything else but what made them
Yeah.
famous.
Yeah.
Because of this lounge, I have been to two, I can't say names, won't say names, but I've been to two Dallas Cowboy players' homes to do photos, and we cool and all that. And they're not old players, they play right now.
Yeah, they on Sunday.
I would never thought in my life I'd be, and they cool.
But they want to be treated like normal people. That's the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, I know I got to get off of here. I know we got the
still got
black
one on
people.
time.
Got to get his
And
too.
I got to ask him the question that we ask everybody.
Boom.
But, you know, it's the same thing with autographs, man. Like, I never understood this. People that want to, like, get somebody's autograph. I mean, take a picture with them. Maybe, like, if it's the right time and place and you're not interrupting their dinner with their family or something like that. But, like, why wouldn't you rather just shake somebody's hand and be like, man, like, you know, you running into that producer. Man, it's really great just to, like, you know, just to meet you. I respect
So
what
what's
you
going to
do.
be the
And then
byproduct
finding-
of that? Now, when the next time they see you, they'll greet you. They know you're not a fan. They know they're like, hey, what's happening? What's
up,
man?
man? Like, what's going on? Like, I mean, like, half of the people that have been on this show, like, I met them as a friend or a person in here, and I didn't treat them like, you know, a famous person or like we're TMZ. And you know what? That's probably why some of these people come on my podcast, because I'm not trying to, like, bring up your dirt or whatever shit you had in your life. Like, this
And it's
isn't what this is
super
about.
solid.
This is about having conversation and having community and just talking and sharing these things, because
Common sense.
these are the common sense conversations we have when we're just chilling. All right. So I know the clock's already against me. I don't want the Frakes in here beating me down.
Boom.
But we ask every person that's on my show one question at the end.
Shoot it.
You get to give your 2 cents. It can be on anything, like something you haven't been able to say, something you want to say, or just something you're inspired to say because of conversation we've had tonight. Like, it could literally be anything, but, like, give us your 2 cents on whatever it is on your mind currently that you would like to end the show with, and that's really it.
Oh man, cool. This wow.
This goes in any direction. Like, this has gone. This has led to people, and we've said, all right, we're gonna have a whole nother show, and there'll be other times you'll be on the show. Like, we definitely want to have you back. I want to dig into this music thing a little more, but, like, 2 cents about, like, literally, it can be whatever is on your mind. Like, it doesn't have to be about anything specific. It doesn't have to be anything we talked about tonight. Just whatever.
Yeah. So, man, it's personal. I trust me. There won't be any follow up. For anybody viewing, listening, watching, whatever. No matter what you may do or the relationship you have with your parent, just make sure that you capitalize the love that you have for him or her each and every day. I lost my mom 2 weeks ago, and
oh man, I'm
it's
sorry to
been
hear that.
Wow, sorry, bro.
hell since then. So, man, love on your family. Me and my mom were good. She knew I love her. I took care of my mom, but you know, when they're gone, I mean, you
don't get that time back.
They're just gone. There's a new normal for you.
Yeah.
So, man, I would just say, just love on your parent, on your children, whatever, and man, give a hug or a
Don't
a
turn down
special
that
kiss.
invite.
Yeah, that conversation, all
call.
that. You know what I mean? And I was present, Garrett, with my mom, and you know, you get those phone calls from your parents. You're like,
I don't have time for this.
but man, I was always present and knowing that there would be one day that I wouldn't get it. So I was present there. I can honestly say that. But at the same time, it's man, just hug on them. Just hug on them.
No, that's awesome, man. I mean, I lost my dad when I was 24. I can't imagine the day when I lose my mother. So I feel for you, brother.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
just hug on them.
yeah.
That's it.
I mean, like, you got to be present. Like, life is short. Time is your most valuable asset.
Yep.
Share your time with those that matter most,
just
and
be
make
present.
time for those that matter most. Like we talked about it with friends and acquaintances. Know who those are. Identify
Right
those
on.
people and be present for those that matter.
Yeah, right on. Well
Man,
said.
hey, I want to thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Had fun.
We will do this
Appreciate you, brother.
again.
Yes, sir.
We will
Yes,
do
sir.
this again for sure. Y'all, thank you for tuning in. I hope you guys will join us again. Next week, we have another interesting episode for you. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. And until next time, y'all be safe.